right, you can begin.
Everybody hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My team and I would be presenting Chapter 6, Leading with Integrity and Moral Purpose. Introducing ourselves, the presenters, Danielle Barcelo, Lizanne Martin, and myself, Kanisha Hippolyte. Learning objectives. Leadership is not just about achieving goals, but how those goals are achieved. Ethical leadership integrates personal integrity and organizational values, ensuring decisions and actions are made with a moral compass. This chapter discusses the challenges leaders face in maintaining ethical standards and offers framework for understanding and acting on moral principles. Leading with integrity Leaders with integrity do what is morally and ethically right and avoid questionable practices. For example, when making decisions, they consider potential consequences on the organization and others, such as the public. So we just take a short moment to watch this brief video on what is ethics.
How many decisions do you think you make each day? If you ask the internet, the answer will range from 70 to 35,000. If you ask us, it's the wrong question to be asking at all. That's because we're interested in ethics. We're not concerned about the quantity of your decisions. We care about their quality. You might want to think of ethics as a tool that helps us create the difference between a good decision and a bad one. Ethics is the branch of philosophy that asks the practical question, what should we do? This leads to the study of things like values, principles, beliefs, and norms. These are the things that shape our choices. Ethics asks us, how should we live? What choices should we make? And what makes our lives worth living? It tries to help us define the conditions of a good choice and then figure out which of our available options is the best one. Let's say a close friend, Lee, confides in you that they're struggling with depression. They're feeling isolated and alone, but whenever they're invited to go out, they find it impossible to do. Lee insists they don't want anyone else to know. They're trusting this information to you alone. A few days later, another friend comes to you, frustrated about Lee. Lee's flaked on plans at the last minute yet again, and your friend has had enough. They've decided they just won't bother inviting Lee out anymore. So you're torn. If Lee stops being invited to things, the isolation could make them feel even worse. Sharing information about their depression might help Lee be treated with more empathy and compassion. But it would be a breach of trust. And if Lee found out, especially in a vulnerable state, who knows what might happen? What do you do? Keep the secret and allow Lee to be socially isolated? Or break Lee's trust, but do it for their benefit? Answering this question means getting clear on what matters, our values and principles. Our values are the things we hold to be good and therefore care about most deeply. Things like justice, knowledge, family and equality. In this case, we're likely to value both trustworthiness and compassion, which pull us in different directions. So it looks like an appeal to values alone won't let us solve this dilemma. We don't just need to know what's good, we need to know what's right. This is where principles come in. They help us draw a line in the sand. They determine the acceptable ways of getting the things that we value. So what's our guiding principle with regard to Lee? Some people might adopt a principle like be true to your word, meaning you keep Lee's confidence no matter the risks. Others might be inclined towards a principle like act in people's best interests and decide that it's in Lee's best interest that people know about the depression. Of course, there are still ambiguities, which is part of what makes ethical decision-making so complicated. So how do we select which values and principles to adopt? And how do we make choices when we face a conflict of values and principles? Good versus good, right versus right. What helps to orient our judgment is a connection to purpose. What's our guiding North Star? What's our reason for being? Think about Lee again. Now, think about the purpose of friendship. What are friends for? Think about why Lee decided to tell you in confidence. Your purpose as Lee's friend is to share their life with them, the highs and the lows. But it's their life and it's their decision on who they share it with. Lee chose to share this information with you alone. Given this, even if you prefer to act in people's best interests, thinking about purpose and thinking about Lee's purpose might encourage you to take a different path. Every time we make a choice, we change the world. What kind of world do you want to live in? Whether you make 35,000 choices a day or just one, what's important is that you make choices that are good and right. Choices you can justify, ones you can be proud of. That's what makes the choices actively yours.
Right. What is ethical leadership? Ethical leadership refers to the alignment between a leader's values and their actions. Ethical leaders consider the impact of their decision on all stakeholders and ensure fairness, respect, and justice guide their decisions. The aim is not to just achieve success, but to do so in a way that benefits the organization and its members morally and ethically. This leadership style focuses on positive influence, inspiring trust, and long-term sustainability. So using the information given and the video that we just watched, we have two famous leaders right here in Trinidad, our prime ministers. Can anyone tell me what type of leaders they think they are? The both of them? You don't have a right and a wrong answer. Anybody? You all want us to give all some time to think on it?
What was the question again? Sorry. What type of leaders?
Yeah, what type of leaders you all think they are?
In what way? Like you want us to see whether they were ethical or not, or
Yeah, using the ethical type of you could either use contribute. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have a right or a wrong answer to it.
I'm not sure how to answer, but I'll say a democratic leadership style.
You wanna give us a little detail of on why?
Not really.
Okay, well, I'll give you all just a little taste of what it is, right? So, for example, Patrick Manning exercised his leadership by transforming the PNM party. The country thought it was demoralized. So he make something out of nothing, right? Basically. Because the party was going downhill either way. So that was his thing. He was more controversial, dealing with all the harsh aspects of people opinions, etc. Meanwhile, but Eric Williams, he studied helping the country, so promoting foreign investments, healthcare, education, whereas he studied the public aspect in making his decisions. So he dealt with more the integrity and studying others, while Patrick studied more of, let me just get this out of the way and done. Right? Anybody understood? You get where I come
Yeah,
from?
yeah, we understood. Yeah.
Okay, great. Ethical organizational environments. Ethical environments are cultivated when leaders embedded ethical values into organizational culture. This involves setting a clear mission, fostering transparency, and empowering members to participate in ethical decision making. By creating a space where integrity is valued, organizations can avoid the ethical pitfalls of leaders. A great example of this would be the leaders like those in Enron, where disregard for ethics led to the company's collapse. Ethical leaders involve others in their decision making, ensuring a collective commitment to high moral standards. Right. So let's consider Enron. Enron was an American energy ethical leadership failures serve as one of the most infamous examples of corporate fraud and greed in recent history.
In the heart of Texas, Enron emerged, initially a humble natural gas company, but under the leadership of its ambitious CEO, Kenneth Lay, and later the notorious Jeffrey Skilling, Enron transformed. It was no longer just a gas company. It became an energy trading behemoth, a star of the stock market, hailed for its innovative business model. Skilling, a visionary with a sharp mind, introduced the concept of trading energy like stocks and bonds.
Welcome, everyone, to Enron Gas Services Solutions Day.
This idea revolutionized the energy market. Enron's profits soared and its stock prices reached the stars. The company's success was not just in numbers, it became a symbol of innovation, even earning accolades as America's most innovative company from Fortune magazine. But beneath this glittering surface lurked a murky world of deceit. Enron's success was built on a foundation of complex financial schemes and unethical practices. The company used what were known as special purpose entities, shadowy entities that hid its mountains of debt and inflated its profitability. The leaders at Enron, driven by greed and a relentless pursuit of personal wealth, continued to deceive investors and employees. They manipulated the market, fabricated earnings reports, and even resorted to outright fraud to maintain the illusion of a thriving company. The fall began when a series of investigations unveiled the truth. In 2001, it was revealed that much of Enron's success was an illusion, a tapestry of lies intricately woven to deceive the public and the investors. As the real numbers came to light, the stock prices plummeted and the company spiraled into bankruptcy. The collapse was not just a financial disaster, it was a moral and ethical crisis. Thousands of employees lost their jobs and life savings, as many had invested heavily in Enron. Investors lost billions, and the scandal left a permanent scar on the American business landscape. The Enron scandal led to a significant overhaul in corporate governance and accounting standards. It was a wake-up call, leading to the creation of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, aimed at increasing transparency in corporate financial reporting and curbing corporate fraud. The story of Enron serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of ethical leadership. It shows how the pursuit of wealth, when untethered from moral and ethical principles, can lead to ruin, not just for a company, but for the broader community it serves.
Just killing promoted the survival of the fittest. Culture emphasizing aggressive risk-taking and unethical behavior to achieve financial success. Kenneth Lay, as the founder, Lay was seen as a charismatic leader, but he failed to stop or even acknowledge the growing ethical issues allowing Enron's culture to deteriorate. Andrew Fasto was the mastermind behind the complex accounting schemes that hid Enron's debts and liabilities from investors.
Okay, so Kanisha is experiencing some issues with her mic, so I'm just gonna take over from here. But as just to reiterate what she said, a healthy ethical environment cultivated when leaders embed ethical values into organizational culture. This involves setting a clear mission, fostering transparency, and empowering members to participate in ethical decision making. And on the other hand, an organization that avoids ethics, um, these are if leaders do not create a space where integrity is valued, it can lead to the ethical pitfalls of leaders like those in Enron, where disregard for ethics led to its company's collapse. So moving on now to 4 qualities for advancing ethics, and this is Nash's model. So the 4 qualities for advancing ethics is critical thinking, integrity, empathy, and motivation. Critical thinking. In critical thinking, leaders must assess problems from an ethical standpoint. Critical thinking ensures that leaders can see beyond immediate gains and evaluate long-term consequences. Integrity is the foundation of ethical leadership. A leader must be true to their own moral principles, even when it is challenging or unpopular. With empathy, understanding the viewpoints of others is crucial in ethical leadership. This helps leaders consider how their decisions affect everyone, not just themselves, and a motivation to do the right thing. Ethical leadership requires internal motivation to act ethically, not just to avoid punishment, but because it is the right thing to do. So now we have moral courage and leadership. What is moral courage? Moral courage refers to the willingness to stand up for ethical principles even when there are personal risks involved. This courage can include facing criticism, losing friends, or risking one's career. Leaders like Sharon Watkins, the whistleblower in the Enron scandal, demonstrated moral courage by exposing unethical practices despite knowing it could cost her job. Moral courage separates true ethical leaders from those who may avoid tough decisions or look the other way when faced with unethical behavior. So, anybody here ever see the show Wolf of Wall Street? You can give me a show of hands if you're not feeling comfortable opening your mic. Anybody with me? All right. So in this show, I'd have this short clip here, which I'd like us to discuss right after. So just take some time and just internalize what's happening in the clip. And just a quick aside, there's some graphic language in there. So just letting you know so it doesn't scream at you when we press play, right?
Tutski. No, thank you, though.
Mr. Hanna, what can I bring for you on this glorious afternoon?
Well, Hector, here's the game plan.
You're gonna bring us 2 absolute martinis. You know how I like them, straight up. And then precisely 7½ minutes after that, you're gonna bring us 2 more. Then 2 more after that, every 5 minutes until one of us passes the fuck out.
Excellent strategy, sir.
I'm good with water for now, though. Thank you.
It's his first day on Wall Street. Give him time. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. Hanna, you were able to do drugs during the day and still function, still do your job?
Well, how the fuck else would you do this job? Cocaine and hookers, my friend.
Right. I gotta say, I'm incredibly excited to be a part of your firm. I mean, the clients you have are absolutely...
Fuck the clients. Your only responsibility is to put meat on the table. You got a girlfriend?
I'm married. I have a wife. Her name's Teresa. She cuts hair.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Think about Teresa. Name of the game, move the money from your client's pocket into your pocket.
Right. But if you can make the clients money at the same time, it's advantageous to everyone, correct?
No. Number 1 rule of Wall Street. Nobody, I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if the stock is gonna go up, down, sideways, or in fucking circles. Least of all stockbrokers, right? It's all a fugazi. You know what a fugazi is?
No, Fugazi. It's fake.
Yeah, fugazi. It's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real. Right? All right?
Okay, so based on the video that we just watched, we were talking about moral courage and, you know, having the courage to say that this is wrong, even when it could cost you something, right? We have on one end, this guy who obviously just started this job and he is trying to please his superiors and trying to make sure he doesn't upset anybody. But in front of his face, this man does all of these things. What do you think you would do in that situation?
Honestly, I think I mind my business, honestly.
You'd mind your business. You just pretend it's not happening. Because you just started a job, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
risk your job just because of this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anybody else have any thoughts?
I would feel uncomfortable. If it was me, I would be uncomfortable just because of the unknown of feeling, well, of being not sure what to do. You know what he's doing is not right, but at the same time, you're studying if you could deal with the consequences of not agreeing with him.
Right. And remember, this guy is married, and this man is talking about, doing drugs and getting women, and you have to work with him. Like, what you're supposed to do in that situation? What decision would you make in that situation? Does
You
anybody else have
either
any?
do the right thing, either do the right thing and allow him to hate you, or or you stay quiet and just go roll with the punches.
Right. But you think you could work in an environment like that where somebody is all the time doing things that are wrong and might encourage you to do the same? You think you could every day just be in an environment like that?
No, I won't. I'll be uncomfortable.
Right. Anybody else have any thoughts before we move on? There's no right or wrong answers, just how you feel about this situation. All right. I'm going to the next slide. Right, so right after that, we're going to talk about toxic leadership. Toxic leaders and their traits. Toxic leaders are those who put personal gain above the well-being of the organization and its members. They may manipulate, deceive, and violate ethical standards, often leading to harm for both followers and the organization. Toxic behaviors can include exploiting others, creating a culture of fear, or pursuing self-interest at the expense of collective goals. I don't know if anybody's ever worked in an organization with a toxic leader. I definitely have. But let me know if anybody ever had that feeling. You could just show by a raise of hand. Lydia, okay, I'm seeing a lot of hands actually. Anybody feeling to share what made you feel like this leader was toxic? Chanel? No? All right. Ethical leaders, in contrast, however, model integrity, accountability, and selflessness, setting a standard for others to follow. Understanding, one second, my internet is frozen. Understanding the traits of toxic leadership helps leaders to recognize and avoid these pitfalls. So how do we spot a toxic leader? While doing some work for the US Navy SEAL, Simon Sinek, author and speaker, was curious to know how the Navy selected who gets to join the elite SEAL Team 6. To answer that question, they drew him a graph of trust versus performance as illustrated in this video here.
Worked with the Navy SEALs, and I asked them, like, how do you pick like the guys that go on SEAL Team 6, right? Because they're the best, the best, the best, the best. And they drew a graph for me, and on one side they wrote the word performance, and on the other side they wrote the word trust. The way they define the terms is performance on the battlefield and performance off the battlefield. So this is your skills. This is, did you make your quarterly earnings, whatever, however you want to translate it, right? Performance, it's traditional. This is, how are you off the battlefield? What kind of person are you? The way they put it is, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money and my wife? This is what they told me. Nobody wants this person, the low performer of low trust, of course. Of course, everybody wants this person, the high performer of high trust, of course. What they learned is that this person, the high performer of low trust, is a toxic leader and a toxic team member. And they would rather have a medium performer of high trust, sometimes even a low performer of high trust, it's a relative scale, over this person. This is the highest performing organization on the planet, and this person is more important than this person. And the problem in business is we have lopsided metrics. We have 1,000,001 metrics to measure someone's performance and negligible to no metrics to measure someone's trustworthiness. And so what we end up doing is promoting or bonusing toxicity in our businesses, which is bad for the long game because it eventually destroys the whole organization. The irony is it's unbelievably easy to find these people. Go to any team and say, who's the asshole? And they will all point to the same person. Equally, if you go to any team and say, who do you trust more than anybody else? Who's always got your back? And when the chips are down, they will be there with you. They will also all point to the same person. It's the best gifted natural leader who's creating an environment for everybody else to succeed, and they may not be your most individual highest performer. But that person, you better keep them on your team.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. We're gonna play a little game called Spot the Toxic Leader, right? I'd really like everybody to just help me out here. And I'm going to give you a little backstory on each of these leaders: the visionary, the team player, the strategist, and the perfectionist. And after listening to their little backstory, just by a show of hands, if you're not feeling comfortable to talk, even if you want to talk, you can feel free. Just let me know which one you think is a toxic leader, right? So the first one is the visionary. This leader is well loved by their team and often described as inspiring. They have a bold vision for the company's future and can easily motivate employees to work toward ambitious goals. However, they tend to make big promises without always thinking through the details or logistics, and sometimes these promises go unfulfilled. This leader also tends to take credit for success but avoids responsibility when things go wrong, often blaming others on the team. Despite this, their magnetic personality makes people hesitant to question their decisions. Then we have leader two, the team player. This leader puts a strong emphasis on collaboration and ensuring every team member feels heard and valued. They often involve the team in decision making, making sure that everyone's voice is considered. While they are focused on building consensus, some employees feel frustrated that decisions can take longer due to the leader's insistence on consulting everyone. They tend to avoid conflicts at all costs, sometimes leading to unresolved issues within the team. But overall, the team appreciates the supportive environment. Then we have leader three, the perfectionist. This leader has built a reputation for getting results. They are highly detailed oriented and expect the same level of commitment and precision from their team. While their drive pushes the team to deliver exceptional work, they have little tolerance for mistakes and often criticize employees harshly when things don't meet their high standards. Employees are often afraid of disappointing this leader, which can create a stressful work environment, but they also respect their strong work ethic and attention to detail. Our last leader, the strategist. This leader is known for their ability to execute complex strategies and achieve personal goals within the company. However, they often prioritize their own career advancement over the well being of their team or organization. They can be manipulative, frequently pitting employees against each other to see who performs better, creating competition within the team. This leader is quick to take advantage of loopholes or gray areas in company policy to get ahead, and they rarely show concern for how their actions affect others. As long as they benefit personally, that's all that matters. Okay, can anybody spot the toxic leader? Yes, Danielle?
Honestly, I would say at least three of them are a bit toxic, but I'll say the most
Right.
toxic would be the strategist.
The strategist.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Why do you think the strategist is the most toxic before we move on, actually?
I, compared to the others, he's so focused is getting ahead really and truly. So and
Mm-hmm.
just the idea of using others for your own game just seems really toxic.
Right, right. Anybody else have any feelings?
I would, as Daniel said, it hard to pinpoint any one. However,
Right.
so for example, if you ask me who are the top two toxic individuals I'm seeing here, I will go with the strategist and the perfectionist. Because reason being
Right.
is that the strategist, he has an ulterior motive. He has a hidden agenda. Secondly, the perfectionist now, nothing will ever be good in his eyesight. Right? You could give
Right.
120%, he want 150%. However, if I was to
Mm,
choose between the strategist and the perfectionist, I will go with the strategist. Because while the perfectionist will literally push you over the edge to get something done, the strategist,
mm-hmm.
you can't trust that person because you don't know what their hidden agenda is.
Exactly, that's true. Anybody else with any thoughts? You could chime in if you
If
feel
I
like Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
If I had to choose, I probably would choose the strategist also.
Right. Why? Why?
I don't know, like just listening to it. At first, I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking he visionary, but then when I hear the strategist, like the way how he would do what he had to do, like behind whoever back, and doesn't really care about how it would make other feel and stuff. I would go with it because of that.
Okay. I agree. Okay. So, show of hands. Anybody? Anybody think is a visionary? Okay. Chanel, Chevelle. Right. Anybody think is a team player? Nobody. Okay. And all those who think it's the strategist. Ooh, okay. I've seen plenty hands. I can't keep up. And how about the perfectionist? No perfectionist votes. All right. Y'all ready to see who the toxic leader is? Yeah. It is the strategist, unsurprisingly. Now, let's just have a little breakdown on the different leaders. Leader one, a visionary, inspires but lacks accountability, often taking credit and avoiding responsibility. And that could be why he struck a lot of people as someone who might be toxic, but the fact that he is inspiring and making people work hard, that's something that a lot of leaders also need to try to strive to be, right? The leader two, the team player, promotes inclusiveness and collaboration, but struggles with conflict avoidance, which may delay decision making. So I think with team player, he I feel like I kind of resonate with this. I feel like we have the same personality. I might be one that would be willing to work with everybody and wants everybody to work together, but if there's some confrontation, I don't think I'll be able to handle that. And then we have the perfectionist. He pushes for high results but creates a stressful environment with harsh criticism and low tolerance for mistakes. So the fact is the work will get done, but it's just not the best environment for working. But the strategist is definitely the toxic leader because he prioritizes personal gain, he's manipulative, and he's fostering unhealthy competition, directly violating ethical leadership principles like integrity, fairness, and accountability, all of which we spoke about before. So this is definitely why he had all of y'all raising your hands up. So I'm gonna
Okay.
hand you all over now to Danielle.
Okay, so this section is we speaking about leadership theory, the transforming leadership theory. Next slide, please. So James McGregor Burns, in his wisdom, he came about he described the transforming leadership as a mutual process where leaders and followers they elevate each other morally. This form of leadership usually it is driven by values such as liberty, fairness, justice, just to name a few. Right? As it says here, the leaders and followers they raise each other to higher moral standards. There's a saying in the Bible that iron sharpened iron. This is what transformational leadership is. They inspire their followers, right, to transcend personal interests for the greater good. It deals with a high level of motivation through a shared vision of ethical principles. Usually in this model, leadership is about you're building a moral consensus and you're working towards one common goal. Next slide, please. So we have with us three ethical decision-making models. Next slide. There's one the ends-based thinking. What this basically does is ask the question of what is the greatest good for the greatest number. It is also known as utilitarianism. What this basically says is that the action is right if it tends to promote happiness, and it is considered or classified wrong if it brings about sadness or the opposite of happiness. In a situation like this, a leader will weigh what is the consequences of their actions, and they look to see how much people can benefit from it the most. So, for example, an example of a ends-based thinking leader, a company or employer, they may decide that, yeah, what's going on? In order to keep this business afloat, because it's an essential business, think of like, for example, the ambulance company, Global Medical Response. They may be going under because they might have too much employees. So what they might think is, okay, we can look for some employees to trim, to lay off, to keep the business afloat. Because if we go under, there'll be no ambulances for anyone. All right? Secondly, we look at rule-based thinking. This asks the question, what if everyone did this? This was brought about by Kant and is grounded in moral duty, where the actions are judged by universal principles rather than outcomes. So, for example, if lying is wrong, then should a leader avoid lying, even if the truth causes short-term harm? All right? And thirdly, we have what is called care-based thinking. This is another model that is also found in the Bible. You know, growing up, we heard our parents quote from the Bible and says, "Do unto others as they like others to do unto you." Right? It Our leader engaging in this kind of care-based thinking, what they do, they think about others. They use empathy. So, for example, there might be an issue in the workplace. What this leader does is that they might say, all right, before I discipline this employee, right? If I was in that position, how would I want persons to react to me? How would I want my employer to discipline me? Would I want them to embarrass me in front of everyone? Would I want them to pull me in a one-on-one and try to explain and hash out the issues? What it does, it puts the leader in this position, they put themselves in the position of someone else. So now we have what is called, here there's a saying that you caught between a rock and a hard place. Now, Kida, he presents a series of right versus right dilemmas. I know we are accustomed to hearing right versus wrong, good versus bad, right? But believe it or not, there's something called right versus right dilemmas. And as I said, it's like being caught between a rock and a hard place. So firstly, we have justice versus mercy, or fairness and compassion. Now, in this situation, we look to balance fairness with compassion. For example, should a leader enforce a strict rule or show leniency for a first-time offender? In a layman example, we might think of a police officer who is doing road traffic duties. He might see someone without their seatbelt on. Now, using the justice versus mercy dilemma, will he throw the book at this person or will he give this person a warning? Because in both instances, there's no wrong action that the police officer could do. If he gives the person a fixed penalty notice, that is the right thing he does. If it is he shows mercy or compassion, it is still a good thing, but which one? Because you can't have both. So this is what justice and mercy is. You have to choose one. Secondly, we may look at short-term versus long-term, or if you want to put that immediate versus future goals. This, as I said earlier, think about the example with the ambulance company. You're using immediate action, short-term actions, all right, for the greater good. You know, it has a saying that says sometimes you might have to cut off the hand to save the patient, right? The greater good, you're looking to ensure long-term sustainability. Then you're looking at individual versus community, or self-interest versus group benefit. The needs of one versus the needs of many. The question to be asked is, should a leader focus on the welfare of one individual employee or prioritize the larger team success. And then finally, we have truth versus loyalty, or honesty versus commitment. We can look back at the Enron scandal, where this lady, she unearthed certain things. In this truth versus loyalty fell directly into that. This is a pure prime example. Would you tell the truth or would you stay loyal to someone? The question to ask in this situation is, should a leader expose a friend's wrongdoing or remain loyal to protect them? Right? So, to recap now, some takeaways from this presentation. Leading with integrity. Ethical leadership is integral to fostering trust and achieving long-term success. 2, moral courage often requires leaders to act with integrity, even in difficult situations. And 3, ethical decision-making models guide leaders in resolving complex dilemmas. All right, and this is the end of our presentation. I hope it was insightful. Are there any questions at all? I've seen somebody clapping. Are there any questions at all? Going once, twice, sold. So, okay, so that is the end of our presentation.